love the music.
Thanks. Yeah, we're going to start here in just a moment, so stay tuned.
Sounds good. Okay.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you so much for joining us, and well, I hope you're all having a lovely day as we get things kicked off here with Computer America, and we have a treat because, like I said before, whenever it happened, well, don't worry about it. We were able to get Afilias back on the program, and we will be talking to Afilias in just a moment. And for those of you who do not know what they do, this is all about domain names and the idea that .com. Well, the internet doesn't just end in .com. There's a lot of different endings that websites can have, and hey, maybe your next website won't be a .com, but would rather be a dot something else. So to talk all about that, how to do it, and why you should do it, we have, of course, Mr. Alan Wallace here, and we'll talk to him in just a moment. But before that, a few things, including ComputerAmerica.com, that has anything and everything that you need for today's show, including show notes that will have links directly to our guest website. When we do computer and technology news, it will have links to any articles that we do, any videos that we show, anything like that will be included over at our website. And while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contest. Every single Friday, Logitech gives away a great prize to one of our listeners. We read their name live on the air, and we contact them, get their prize sent out to them just for listening. Thank you so much for all of our past winners. And hey, we could be calling your name next. And the last thing is the live video portion, where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. So, on shows such as today, you can see Afilias' website. We'll be poking around while we are doing the interview. And, when we do technology news, we'll be showing the articles and videos and things like that. But, again, everything is primarily radio. So obviously we don't want to leave anyone in the dust. So with all of that said, why don't we get started here? So once again, Afilias, and here to talk all about what they do and why you should, hey, maybe consider using them and consider something else beyond a .com, is Mr. Alan Wallace. He is the Director of Corporate Communications for Afilias. And Alan, great to finally have you on.
Well, thank you, Ben. It's also great to have the studio working again here.
I believe it.
When Skype works.
Yeah, no, trust me. I mean, when it comes to audio equipment, that is one of the hardest things that we have to do here at Computer America. Between everything, audio is not simple. But regardless, happy to have you here, happy to have you on. And so I think a good place to get this started is, of course, a little bit of background for, I think Afilias is one of the better known names out there in domain, in domain names. But talk about Afilias, how to get started, and kind of some of your background.
Sure. Well, I've been working in the internet since '95 and promoting all sorts of really cool projects as they come to the internet. And it was very much the Wild West in those days. And when everybody started getting their websites and everything else set up and moving beyond AOL email addresses, it became very difficult to find a name that would work for your company. And now, after all of this time, finding that really good .com website can be extremely difficult. But what's really cool in the domain name space is now that we have additions to that like .info or .pet even or .lgbt. There's all sorts of other areas that you can stretch out and find new ways to brand what you're doing, going beyond the .com, and in fact, in some cases, finding an even better name when you get past the .com than you would have ever found in the old space. That, you know, basically, if you're looking at a .com address now, it's almost like looking for an AOL email address.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has gotten to the point where if you wanted a suitable .com name, besides the fact that so many, obvious names have been taken already, but beyond that, it's pretty hard to find, one that kind of fits your company. I mean, I will just say that here on the show, we obviously interview, we try to interview a new company every single day, and we have started to come across, .pet was the last one I saw. They made little pet trackers for the callers, and instead of going with, cell phone tracking pet thing.com, they went with, tracker.pet or something like that. It was much more concise, and the dropping of the .com didn't really harm anything. So I guess, to bring around to a question, I mean, are we running out of .com, just in your, kind of opinion? Because, the last time I heard about .coms, they were recommending people use sentences, like, I'd like to find my restaurant.com, whatever, if you wanted to do, let's say, a restaurant's, service. I mean, are we running out of .coms, and that's why we feel the need to go into, .info, .mobi, what have you?
Well, let's say you're a new movie coming out and the name of the movie is impossible to find as a .com, but you can find it as a .movie. Or in fact, what's also funny that you mentioned .pet, because that's one of our properties as well. And a couple of years ago at the Consumer Electronics Show, we met this company that had this great product for pets, but by the time they'd figured out a URL that worked for .com, you couldn't remember what the name of the company was when you walked away from their booth. So we ended up helping them. They got to a .pet address, and it was so easy to remember as a .pet, but not as a .com. In fact, other areas to look at it is my son, as an example, is an avid snowboarder. And I wanted to find him a really cool email address and a website name, and .com, and his name was taken by a musician who hasn't performed in 30 years, but they felt the need to still keep the website for whatever reason. I've tried for 10 years to get it, still haven't. I got him a .ski address, and he loves that. And in fact, that's so new that I was able to get his first name at a .ski address. And so, it's little things like that. When you look into the new space, there's all sorts of cool things that you can find.
So there's still a lot of really good real estate in .ski. And talk about, what are some of the possibilities? You kind of hit on it with your son's first name. But, even beyond that, should existing companies, like let's say Computer America, using ourselves as an example, like should we look for Computer America .computer or I was about to abbreviate .computer to .com, but that would obviously not work. So, should existing companies consider expanding into maybe different web addresses as well?
Absolutely. And whether it's our properties or not, there's all sorts of cool things out there that you can find. So we have .info as an example, and I thought it was really funny today to notice that there's a blockchain site that has a .info address. There's libraries. The MTA in New York has a .info address. But when you go for that type of a top-level name, you know what you're going there for. You're going there for info. If you have a .ski, you're going there for ski. We also have .bet and .poker and .vote. So if you're going to run for an election and you want to find a name that you want to make sure is authentic and real to you, a .vote address is great. And a lot of folks also know us for managing the back end of .org, which is known really well in the charity space. But we also have .lgbt, .organic, and there's sites and top-level domains in some cases that you have to have special qualifications to get that address. .lotto is another one that we handle, and that it's going to be an official lottery address if you come on.
Right.
But there's names that I have that I absolutely love that aren't our properties. I have .photo addresses. I have all sorts of other things and other hobbies where I want to make sure that if you go, you know what you're getting when you get there, and I can do that so much better when I get past a URL that is so long you need an 18-wheel truck to put the entire name on your vehicle.
Yeah. So, and it just kind of, I think you shook something loose there when you mentioned CES and .pet. I may have met you or someone out there at CES 2015, because I remember bringing home, you get so much swag out of CES. I remember bringing home a .pet rock. And I'm not sure if that was you guys or someone else. That was you?
Yeah.
All right.
We wanted to find something fun to give away and something easy to remember. And our team spent hours with Sharpies and pet rock boxes putting that little dot right in front of the pet.
Yep, it's still in my rock collection, so I do have a .pet rock. So, all right, yeah, no, great to finally remember that. But so we're talking about all these different, different endings, and obviously some are going to be, kind of geared towards certain subjects. You use like .lotto. I can see like .green, like maybe, let's say if Coca-Cola wanted to really enforce their efforts to go green, they'd have like Coke.green or something like that. I mean, obviously there's a lot of different use cases, but I mean, how does that kind of work as, let's say someone wants to keep their .com, but they want to, kind of expand into that. Is it possible to kind of tie in, your .com to your .green or vice versa in any kind of meaningful way?
You can always get that address. You can forward it to another URL. So you can get a .green and forward it to a .com or a .com and forward it to a .green. If you want to make sure that say, for example, you've had the site for years, you don't want to lose the value of all the links that have been built, all the search engine stuff, but you do want to maybe either add a brand or change your brand. So you can do it that way. In some cases, you may have a more specific aspect of your site. So let's say you wanted to, using Computer America as the example, you wanted to integrate maybe support. So you could do computeramerica.support, and that may also be integrated in your site on a .com address. But if you just wanted something quick and easy to push out on the radio for everybody to remember, if you said computeramerica.support, it would automatically go to that page.
That is not a bad idea. No, and obviously great. So how does that work for email addresses? Because a lot of email addresses are tied into, obviously people's websites. I've, so far, I'll be honest with you, I don't think, maybe once or twice I've had to enter in so-and-so at a new extension. I mean, how does email work with this whole system?
Just the same as your website would. You just assign whatever server address to whatever the record would be for email, and you're all set up and running.
Just that simple. So not too bad, not too bad. And here you have what is the big deal about other top level domains? I mean, obviously .coms, it's gotten to the point. You have a lot of .info, .black, these kind of things. How, and I assume that you've done some kind of, outreach or research or, kind of gotten a feel for it. I mean, how has the reception been for a lot of these? Because I remember a time when they said, if you didn't have a .com, people weren't going to remember it. But I think you're making a pretty good case for, it's not hard to remember .pet. It's pretty concise. How's the reception been to changing, the ending?
Well, the reception's actually been pretty good. It may not have grown quite as fast as everybody thought, but it's interesting because I remember a time in 94 and 95 when people were telling me that the internet was a fad. That was a fad that became pretty important for all of us pretty quick. So the fact that it's growing and that .coms, there's only so far that you can go in that space, and there's only going to be so far that you can go in each of the other brands as well. But it gets down to the point to where if you're in a search engine, or if you know what the company does and you really want to find something, then what this does is this allows people to be even that much more creative, create something that's that much more memorable up on a billboard, and a radio ad, on a T-shirt, and let you have a lot more fun with what you're picking up, rather than great company name at general address. So it really it allows you to open it up. So it's been very cool for me to watch it grow in that space. It's been very cool for me to go to a new top level domain thinking this will never be available. Oh my God, I got it. It's how great is that? And develop cool addresses that, I may want to use today. I may want to sell to a friend of mine at some other point, but it really opens up the field to allow a whole lot more cool things out there. And there's some addresses that I thought were going to be great that, that I acquired a few years ago that, I got even better ones when the new top level domains opened up. There's a company branding I had in 95. And I ended up selling that domain off with a company, and I always regretted never holding onto that name. Mm-hmm. And then I bought a similar name with a new top level domain a couple of years ago, and it's even cooler than the one that I sold. So little things like that will come back and be really rewarding.
I can definitely see how, especially for large websites that are maybe sprawling, they have a lot of different parts to it. Think like your Googles or your Microsofts. I mean, I can definitely see where organizing your website can actually get easier if you had, let's say, instead of Microsoft.com / parent under parent under parent, you get that whole tree going. Instead, you have .brands, like you kind of mentioned. Kind of having support.microsoft or store.microsoft, or, just kind of organizing things what would be a little bit more logically than, otherwise they would be. What are the importance
and actually on that area, you even start to get an area where you can improve your security, because if you're a .com address, it can be really easy to make people think that, another address with a similar name is your website. But if your website is a .microsoft address, mm-hmm. And you're a Microsoft property, it's going to be very hard for somebody to fool the average person on the other end and make you think you're going to a Microsoft property if it's a .microsoft rather than a .com. Also, in the Internet of Things space, there's a whole lot of devices out there that if you can put them under, basically, when you look at a .microsoft or a .google or a .canon, those are what we call the .brand space. So if you've spent the money to own that name as your top level domain, then that also opens up all of the IP addresses under that. And if you set that to where those are your electronic devices, those are your cameras, those are everything else, it makes security that much better as well.
Makes sense. So do you allow anyone to kind of go in and register, like, if I wanted to, obviously Computer America would have no right to, .coke or whatever. Do you only, or like, what kind of background do you require someone to register a .brand? Yeah.
A lot of people will just go to places like GoDaddy and various other registry services, and they'll see what's there, and they'll in some cases, if they know better, they will go and look beyond the .com address and see what else is there. And in some cases, they're really heavily promoted on the site that you would go to. But in many cases, I'll go to whether it's a GoDaddy or 101 Domains, and I'll see what's up there, and I'll go ahead and buy it that way. But if you want to get an address at one of those top level domains, it's very easy to do. Now, if you're a larger corporation and you're looking at setting up a .brand, generally that's something where you're working with a company like ours, and you're working with ICANN, and you're paying $100,000 to set
Okay.
those up. But the average person listening, if they want a .photo site, if they want a .ski site or a .pro, you're a consultant and you really think that you're going to stand out a lot more as a .pro than a .com, then a GoDaddy or 101 Domain or another company like that is the place that you would go, and then you could set up your website and your email address.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, and that kind of assuages all those fears. I was worried that someone would register new .google, but I don't think your average criminal is looking to, spend that kind of money just to fool people out of a credit card. So,
Yeah,
makes
.google they would not be able to do.
right, makes sense. So, all right, and all these different things. Obviously, I think we pretty much covered that. .com. I think .com still has so much presence of mind that we're just now starting to shake the idea that you don't need a .com, but all these different ones out here, unless there's any kind of topic that we didn't cover, maybe another example of something you, your friend, your family have kind of and like I can definitely see this for starting new businesses to really kind of stand out with your business card. Obviously, Troy Tucker's photography@large.com isn't going to really, grab the attention. I mean, any other examples of this being done successfully in your experience?
Well, actually, I do have alanwallace.photo. So, and people are also using .pet to set up websites to showcase their pets. Hopefully, they're not setting up email addresses for their pets, but you never know.
Right, absolutely. So, and so, Alan Wallace. I mean, unless we kind of miss anything or gloss over anything, I think that we've pretty much educated people on the idea of registering, a new domain name.
We have been. It's been great. Thank you so much for having us on.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. And thank you so much. So everyone, one last time, Mr. Alan Wallace. He is the Director of Corporate Communications for Afilias. And Alan, nice to have you on.
Thanks again.
All right, have a good one. Bye-bye. So there he goes, everyone. That is Alan Wallace himself. So if you want to check that out, be sure to check out affilias.info. You can check that out in the show notes. Just that simple. And there you have it. So next, we're going to move on to computer and technology news, brought to you by Computer America and FireDragon Security. So stay tuned for that. And here we go. So, well, now let's do computer and technology news, brought to you by FireDragon Security. Here we go. All right, so everyone, our first story that we're going to do here today, and we have a ton of them. How about we talk about Cox Communication? Now, they are one of the largest internet providers here in the country, and it's going to be a real annoying thing for I think a lot of people, because 1 terabyte of data doesn't sound like a very low ceiling, but it's honestly not that hard to hit. So here's where we come into our first story, and yeah, this coming from PC Gamer, saying that the 3rd largest American ISP will charge customers an extra $50 a month for unlimited data. That's right, something that you get on, well, you were receiving on pretty much every other cable provider, absolutely free, is now a fee if you happen to go over. So it doesn't matter that 4K video streaming and digital distribution of increasingly larger games and other cloud content are becoming the norm, where broadband providers are still moving away from unlimited data. Even though, again, just to be clear, you don't have to. This is not mandatory to go to, a capped data usage. But here we have it saying that the latest is Cox Communications, which is the 3rd largest ISP in the US, which is now charging some customers an additional $50 a month if they want to ditch their data cap and avoid overage fees. Insane. So Cox does not impose data caps in all of its territories, though it has been expanding its reach as of late, where Cox sent a note to new customers in New Orleans that they would face a $10 fee for every 50 gigs over 1 terabyte that they used every single month. And on that note, Cox claimed that the data caps only affected around 2% of its customers. And I mean, oh man, like, we've seen this before. We've seen other, like, Microsoft's and their Dropbox, and Amazon and their unlimited cloud storage, Google and their cloud storage. They all, at one time or another had something like an unlimited plan with their data storage. But then there were definitely a few people who probably misused the spirit of that promotion. And they were uploading, 15, 20, 100 terabytes a month to these unlimited accounts, which kind of led them to obviously, hey, bump it off and say, hey, you can only do a maximum of XYZ. And, they said it would only affect a maximum of, like, the top 1% or even the top 0.1%. And it's something that I don't think anyone would really be against them going after and trying to, stop that kind of flow of information, because, hey, that's a lot of data, and that's way, 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 way more than the average user. But 1 terabyte is such a easy threshold to hit, and it's going to continue to be a threshold to hit because networks are getting more robust. Networks are getting better at handling that kind of traffic on a regular basis. So when they put in something like a 1 terabyte a month, data cap, I really do feel like that they know down the road, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, when 4K streaming is just called streaming, and you don't even play video games anymore that you download. Instead, they're all server side, and you just stream the data. And 1 terabyte, if you're not already hitting 1 terabyte already, then in the near future, you will be hitting 1 terabyte very, very easily. So, continuing on with the story, they have something here from DSL Report saying that an overwhelming majority of data is consumed by a very small percentage of internet users. And they said that the new choices are great options for a small percentage of heavy users who routinely use over 1 terabyte of data per month and prefer a flat monthly rate rather than purchasing additional data blocks. And by that, well, they clearly mean this next plan that is for an additional $30. That's right, additional $30. You can, how do you put this? For an additional $30 on top of your monthly plan, you can purchase an additional 500 gigs. So, 50% increase. And if I'm reading this right, you might be able to purchase additional 500 gigs for an additional $30 every time. That is so, heavy-handed, because, small ISPs, Google Fiber, places like that, I mean, it's not hard to handle this kind of traffic if you have a decent enough network and infrastructure to put it in. And again, Cox being the 3rd largest in the United States, you think they have that. You think they'd have something along those lines. So they're saying that behind Comcast and Charter, Cox currently services around 6 million customers and 18 states. And I'm sure if you live in one of the states, you know who they are. And yeah, it is what it is. So they're saying that this is a growing trend, saying that a recent broadband analysis by Broadband Now found that nearly 200 ISPs in the US have implemented a data cap, and that figure might be low, where the cap sizes range from as little as 3 gigs to up to 3 terabytes with a wide range in between. It's really hit or miss, and it's going to take the market a little bit of time to settle out and see what the new cap is. Although, personally, there really is no need for a data cap. There has been admission, even from high-ranking officials in telecommunication industries, that say that, hey, there is no other reason than picking up revenue, because a lot of these providers also provide cable, and cable is on the downslope, so they have to make their money up elsewhere, and internet is definitely on the upswing. So how do you squeeze money out of that? Data caps. Regardless, they're saying that statements from internet providers suggest that data caps are a necessary step to combat network congestion. Opponents of data caps believe that the motivation for data caps has more to do with recovering declining cable revenue, as I just said, or creating a roadblock for streaming services like Netflix. Whichever side you believe, the outcome is the same. Data caps are becoming commonplace, even though, again, probably shouldn't be. So meanwhile, the FCC is on a path to dismantle net neutrality rules, and that they were put in place by the previous administration. Oh no. So, they said, as for Cox, it seems that the following in the footsteps of Comcast and expect an extra $50 a month to be norm. There you have it. So, with that being said, music means we have to take a break. We'll be right back. More computer and technology news right after this, everyone. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here to, actually before we hit back to computer technology news, a few things, including, well, our weekly giveaway. That's right. Every single Friday, we give away a prize to one of our lucky listeners, and we ship them off a prize from Logitech, who are kind enough to put up a prize every single Friday for a lucky winner to win. So this week, I think we're going to draw it right now, if you just give me one moment. And the winner is, by the way, if you want to enter, and maybe, hey, next week, this could be you, but if you want to win, computeramerica.com, on the right, there is a form to enter. It's very, very simple, and there's like 8 different ways to enter. You can check each one out. So this week's winner is Miss Monica McCarthy. Monica McCarthy, who listens to us in Gilbert, Arizona. And Monica, thank you so much for, of course, participating. Thank you for listening. And thank you for, of course, entering our contest. We'll contact you shortly here after the show. We'll get your prize out to you. Just that simple. And yeah, it's, again, thanks so much. So with, with our winner, and by the way, if you want to be like Monica next week, again, computeramerica.com, check it out. And then the next thing that I need to do before we get back to computer and technology news is, of course, a message from one of our, is a message from one of our sponsors, and that is, of course, ZipRecruiter. So here we go, everyone. And are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidate? And, well, with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 plus job sites with just a single click. Then their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to your job better than anyone else. And that's why ZipRecruiter is different, where unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them. Where in fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter find a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. Not too shabby. So you don't have to juggle emails to your office, no more juggling calls. Instead, simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. And believe me, it certainly is. So now, of course, our listeners can find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified candidate, and of course the most qualified candidates for the job that you're looking for with immediate results. So if you want to try it free, if you want to fill that position, check out ZipRecruiter.com/computer. Right, we changed it up. ZipRecruiter.com/computer. And one last time, ZipRecruiter.com/computer. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. And again, thank you, ZipRecruiter, for sponsoring Computer America. Now, getting back to, of course, computer and technology news. And here we go. We're just coming off the story about Cox and how they want to impose a data cap. We'll see how that shakes out. Unfortunately, if you wanted to switch, providers, in a lot of places, at least, this is from my personal experience, in a lot of places where Cox is available, your only other alternative tends to be Comcast. And Comcast was the first one to put data caps in place. So, a little darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of thing going on. All right, so how about we talk a bit about the eclipse? I know it's, I'll be honest, I'm a little over the whole eclipse thing. I get that, if this were 200, 400, 500 years ago, this would be society altering moment for us. But right now it's like, I'm kind of getting in the mood of course, going out and seeing as much of it as I can in person, but really focusing and really enjoying the images that are going to be captured by those who are in a better spot in the country, those who have better equipment, and, not really focusing too intently on the event itself, rather than the eventual outcome of all the photography and all of the images that will be of it. So, with that being said, let's talk a bit about if you decide to go outside without the proper eye protection and what will happen if you look at it. So this article comes just in time from Ars Technica, as I believe the eclipse will be happening on the 21st, I believe, something like that. So Americans are making their last dashes for the glasses, and viewers to watch the rare total solar eclipse that will glide across the continental United States on Monday, where meanwhile, eye doctors are trying to clear away any orbiting debris that is obscuring vision safety information and spotlight the dangers of unsafe viewing. And again, we're not going to get too far into this, but just a few reminders that if you don't wear the proper eye protection, these are the things that can happen to you. So here we go. Let's kick this off, where sunlight can damage your eyes in two distinct ways. Where exposing your naked eyeball to sunlight causes solar retinopathy. Wow. And which involves two types of damage to the retina, particularly in the fovea, burns and photochemical toxicity. Fun stuff. So the burns, or the former, may be the most easy to understand, where a big chunk of sunlight is near infrared radiation, which can cause heat and thus burn. And that is something that the optometrist wrote, saying that because the eyes lack pain receptors, we can scorch this part of the eye without even noticing as we gaze into the sun. But the eye experts wrote, write, a more pressing concern is photochemical toxicity, and this is the large wallop of visible light from the sun gets soaked up by photoactive materials in the eye that are just itching to form free radicals and reactivate oxygen particles. Fun. And that these include proteins, blah, 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 blah. So once activated, the free radicals and reactive oxygen species can attack many types of molecules and break down membranes, leading to tissue damage and cell death. So once the retina tissue is destroyed, it cannot regenerate. And the authors say that a study of 45 people who damaged their eyes during a 1999 eclipse in the UK support the idea that photochemical toxicity is a frequent cause of vision damage and solar retinopathy. And I think we're going to leave it there because it gets a little, tedious. But some ways that you can protect yourself. And there's things like a welder's glass. So if you think welders in the big hood, as they work with, the bright lights of their welding tools, yeah, that kind of glass, it can save you from that kind of damage. Pinhole projectors, where these allow you to see the eclipse by projecting sunlight through a pinhole onto a viewable surface. That's right. And saying that, there's more information in the article below. And they said that commercial glasses that do not have any damages or scratches, and these are the ones that everyone are freaking out about. You can buy them in the streets. People are paying like $5 a pop for them. And yeah, the only thing I would caution about that is looking for knockoffs. So, with all that said, the Eclipse, hey everyone, be careful, don't hurt yourself, and because if you hurt yourself, well then you won't be able to see the live video portion of Computer America. So, everyone, stay safe out there and view with pleasure. Now, one thing that we could also mention about the Eclipse, and this is a little bit more down to earth, and more specifically, down to your pocket, where Google have a countdown teases Android O, and they revealed and that will be revealed during the solar eclipse. So the eclipse does kind of look like an O, obviously. So Google is capitalizing on the solar eclipse hype to tease out the latest version of Android, where on Monday, that's right, on Monday, 2:40 p.m. Eastern, the internet juggernaut says that we'll meet the next release of Android in all of its super sweet new powers. Given that the final beta shipped last month, this could mean a few possibilities. Either the name will be revealed, and the author puts his tips on Oreo, which, considering they've done things like Kit Kat and, other candy-related brand names, Oreo wouldn't be, obviously a bad choice. But they'll, we'll learn more on the releases update. But after a few months of previews and non-final builds, at least we won't have to wait much longer for them to actually be able to download the new OS. And so here are some of the perks that, of course, you get with Android O, as Google is promising: decreased load times, better battery life, and a lot of onboard AI features like Google Lens and copyless pasting and a picture-in-picture mode, among other things. None of them immediately call Oreo trademark to mind, but hey, it could be a thing. So it sounds like there's some very, very cool features that could be announced in the next operating system. Not only that, but Apple is starting to tease some of their more iOS 11 as well. So we might have time to talk about that a little bit later today. But that's that. And, I'm actually kind of feeling it. So let's go from Apple to Apple. And I don't know, this is something that could either go really, really well, and it could change an entire industry as we know it, or it could flop immensely and no one will ever remember it in a year. But Apple, through their Apple TV, Apple mulls over pricey early movie rentals right after their theater debut. And of course, the deal sounds familiar. We're $50 for a rental 2 weeks after the theatrical debut of a movie. So, Apple, by the way, this is coming from Engadget, Mr. Timothy Sapala, and Apple and Comcast are the latest names in the seemingly never-ending struggle to bring movies home faster. And Bloomberg reports that the tech behemoth and telco independently are in talks with movie studios to offer $50 rentals roughly 17 days after their theatrical debut. So 17, so most movies come out on a Friday. At 3 days, it's a Monday. So the second Monday after a movie is released, yeah, they're saying that they would offer $50 movie rentals, which, I mean, consider for some people, like let's say a family of 4, if you wanted to, take the, 2 kids, 2 adults, get snacks and things like that, that might come out to about $50 for a single trip to the movie theater. I mean, heck, and that's only one small popcorn. I kid. That is not fair. But no, $50, I mean, for enough people certainly makes sense. And waiting 4 to 6 weeks would save you money, as the price would drop to about $30. And this is the same structure that we've heard earlier this year when Warner Brothers and Fox stepped into the fray. and the deals could be finalized by early next year. Interesting. So, movie theaters have a vested interest in maintaining that exclusivity window and keeping it as wide as possible. Absolutely. Where concession sales, not tickets, do the lion's share of keeping the lights on. And if a family can make their own popcorn and watch a movie a few weeks after its premiere for less than the price of 4 tickets, that's going to cut into the theater's profits drastically. There's no doubt about it. And the deal with Apple and Comcast would give movie studios leverage to push forward with movie downloads, saying that those packs could give a studio a way to issue an ultimatum to the theater chains, agree to a deal, or we'll start selling movie downloads anyways. And so they're saying that just this week, AMC said that it would fight tooth and nail against MoviePass, which is the subscription service offered a $10 monthly subscription for unlimited theater movies. And that's something that we didn't really cover. I really didn't want to, because I've, in the research that I've done about MoviePass, the people behind MoviePass, it's not necessarily a service or company that I really feel deserves any attention. There's a lot of caveats, there's a lot of loopholes, there's a lot of CD practices that MoviePass does that I just can't get behind. So yeah, we'll definitely see. And so they said that if this all sounds familiar, they're saying that it's because the fight for premium video on demand movies has been going on since at least 2010. But Apple and Comcast have little more clout than Napster co-founder Sean Parker, so maybe this will actually happen. Although one thing to really consider for these movie studios is that, sure, you can put a lot of digital rights management. Sure, you can, try to put it behind as many barriers to entry as possible. But the moment that you release something out there for the individual to download, there's going to be a way for them to not only watch the movie themselves, but to, of course, record it on their own systems. Be it just something as simple as even recording the screen with a tripod and a microphone, or hooking it up to a secondary system that could record the screen and the sound coming off of the television. But the point is, once you release it into individuals' homes, that's when you start getting viable pirating content that can really happen. So if they really do push for video on demand, unless it's something really, really, really good, I'm beginning to think that the internet is savvy enough that it could be a wash, if not a complete flop, if they decide to start selling movies for $50. Because $50, again, it makes sense if you collect, $10 from all of your friends and you all sit down and you all watch it together. Then it, you kind of beat the ticket price. But for one person who wants to see that one movie, or maybe 2 people, it's probably not going to make sense. So for every group of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, there's a group of 1 or 2 or 3 people that wouldn't be able to justify it and would be more than happy to get it by other means. So if this is the way that movies are going, it's going to go that way regardless. It probably just won't be as they intend it to go. Because I'm sure the movie studios intend for them to make just as much money to, fund all of their $300 million blockbusters that they expect 2 weeks after the theatrical release. They expect people to pay, the $50 and them to make even more money. They wouldn't be doing this if they didn't think that, this was a good business decision. But I feel like instead it's going to lead to the opposite. So, yeah, it's we'll definitely have to wait and see. It's just, yeah, I personally don't have high hopes. So, all right. there's that story. And once again, that was from Engadget talking about Apple, and they want to sell movie passes for essentially $50 2 weeks after the movie. It's pretty crazy. All right, so let's get into some of these other articles here. And this one was interesting. This one I didn't see coming. And this is one about Apple and how their new iOS, here we go. Their new iOS 11, check this out, has a cop button. A cop button. You know, just in case, you know, hey, you're worried that when you get arrested or the authorities want to check your phones, well, now there may be a cop button built into the iOS. So this is and again, like my initial thoughts, it was going to be like a life alert kind of system baked into an operating system, but it doesn't seem to be. And this from 9 to 5 Mac, Mr. Benjamin Mayo, and iOS 11 cop button also helps users with medical ID protect their data if unconscious. So iOS 11 Beta 6 includes a new feature to quickly disable Touch ID from the lock screen, and tapping the button 5 times to access the SOS screen or opening a medical ID will cause the iPhone or iPad to temporarily reject all Touch ID attempts, requiring a passcode to unlock. Right. So it doesn't turn it off, just turns it off for that next attempt. And try this for yourself, where if you update to iOS 11 Beta 6 and access the medical ID from the lock screen, after dismissing the view, you will find that passcode is required to get back to your home screen. And you can also press the lock button 5 times to open up the SOS medical ID shutdown slider page, which also performs the same Touch ID lockdown. Interesting. So pressing it 5 times, and there you have it. So the phone will accept Touch ID again once a valid passcode has been entered, and although by no means foolproof, the new feature is an added layer of security for the owner's data. And they can access the medical ID to help diagnose what might have caused this incident. Again, if the person is passed out on the sidewalk, they can't exactly tell you if they have diabetes or whatnot. This is where your iPhone can come in handy. So obviously an intelligent crook could unlock the unconscious person's device before entering the medical ID or SOS modes, but Apple is betting on most people being honest or the feature being enabled before the user loses consciousness. And if the device owner is having a seizure, they can activate the SOS screen themselves, call their emergency contact with the knowledge that the device will be secure if they do lose consciousness or control of their body. And the reason I find this so interesting is that they're obviously angling this towards people with medical conditions, which is certainly important. But at the same time, you can kind of point to Apple and say they have a pretty tumultuous relationship with authorities lately. When it came to San Bernardino, when it came to unlocking iPhones for matters of national security, for national authorities to kind of pressure Apple into giving over information inside locked iPhones. And yeah, they rejected everything profusely. But you know what? That doesn't seem to be stopping Apple from giving people the tools to essentially lock authorities out of your iPhone if you're not comfortable. Today they say it's for seizures, they say it's for medical purposes, but it's not hard to say that, if you are about to be arrested or or there's a search and seizure going for your technology, it's not hard to imagine picking up your phone and pressing the home button 5 times, thereby preventing anyone from accessing your cell phone and the data there on it, unless they, of course, hack it themselves. Obviously, you're adding another hurdle. So, if a first responder is an honest citizen and instantly accesses the medical ID, the real owner of the phone will be secured if anyone else attempts to force access by jamming their finger onto the fingerprint button. So it's saying that this could also be, for first responders. If you want to keep a person's phone safe, then you could just press it 5 times yourself and get access to their medical information. Not a bad idea. So, with the upcoming Face ID in iPhone 8, you can see how the same behavior defends against unconscious unlocks with face biometrics as well. And that the feature may also prevent some people from being forced into giving their data into law enforcement by 5 presses of a physical button is faster and easier than attempting to turn off the phone before it is snatched out of your hand. So, the legal implications are a bit unclear, but people have been jailed over not giving over their cell phone password, which I think is complete malarkey. We've talked about that here on the show. We've talked about the right to not incriminate yourself as enshrined in the Bill of Rights, but let's not get into that. So again, this will help in some situations and not others. Still, your chances are always higher than on a device running iOS 10. Right? So iOS 11, when it does come out, we of course recommend everyone stay up to date on iOS. Apple is notorious for not being the friendliest of old operating systems for their devices. And, they, as well as ourselves, always recommend you get the latest, if for no other reason than security findings. So, iOS 11 coming soon, and it has a new cool medical ID or lock screen. Check that out. So, I think we have time for just one more story. And let's see. We have some pretty good ones here. All right. Yeah, I like this one. So, there's a long-running joke that no one uses Bing. And by long-running joke, I mean, well, even I thought it was true. No one uses Bing. And it turns out, well, Microsoft is boasting, at least, consider the source, but Microsoft is boasting, at least, that, hey, someone out there does use Bing. Saying that, as it turns out, but nobody uses Bing isn't actually true, and this coming out of Ars Technica, Mr. Peter Bright, and saying that we've known Microsoft financial reports that Bing has been growing, and that the search engine became profitable in the 3rd calendar quarter of 2015, and Microsoft says it has continued to grow both the market share and revenue per search since then. But how big is Bing? And Microsoft tweeted yesterday that it's bigger than you think and provided some numbers that will probably be a surprise to many. And if you're watching the video portion, I can safely say that, this image that is, again, from Bing, from Google, certainly does paint a, not a dominant picture. Google is obviously, going to be the majority of what's not shown here. But if these numbers are to be believed, then Bing is something to actually take notice of. And they're saying that 1/3 of the searches in the US are powered by Bing alone, and either directly or through Yahoo or AOL, and both of which provide results generated by Microsoft. So that makes a little bit more sense. Yahoo and AOL, they still have a user base, not the largest user base, but there you have it. And other strong markets include Taiwan and the UK, where the company is claiming a 9% market share. Google is still the runaway winner, of course, but Microsoft numbers using data from ComScore suggest that in at least some parts of the world, Bing is big enough to take note of, and that the real target of this kind of data is, of course, advertisers. As advertisers are going to want to put their ads in front of the most people as possible. And to be fair, that's still Google, by and large, still Google in a large way. But, you're still talking about millions of people using Bing or using Yahoo or AOL. Yet, the author goes into some of his opinions about it, but regardless, everyone, the photo speaks for itself. If Microsoft is to be believed, there you have it. So everyone, music means that we are done here for today. Everyone, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and really, thank you for, thank you Afilias for joining us here on Computer America. Everyone, have a great weekend. Do something fun. Catch a movie. What have you. Hey, maybe even watch some kind of weird life-altering event when it comes to, watching the solar eclipse. So, until then, everyone, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, we will catch you then. And we'll be back with more Computer America all next week. And, yeah, see you then. So, and by the way, next week we have a lot of great shows. You can find more information at computeramerica.com. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, all that good stuff. And, hey, one last time from everyone here, have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everyone.